My name is Jim McClay. I am one of the owners of Cottonwood Dairy in Fort Lupton, Colorado. We're approximately a 400 cow dairy and have been in operation since 1982. We are producers of raw milk. We produce about 34,000 pounds of milk a day, and most of our milk goes to Meadow Gold in Denver. A couple of the projects we've done are LED lighting both indoors and outdoors. LED over incandescent lights or fluorescent lights is about 25% usage, so I'm saving 75%. Under the pilot program, we did LED lighting in the milk parlor where we milk the cows. And that quality of lighting was so good that I did it in the rest of the barn on the ACRE3 program when we last did that. It's a much better quality light. It's much more efficient, and the fixtures are not much more expensive than a normal incandescent or fluorescent fixture. The heat exchanger that we put in 3 years ago on the pilot program, when the milk comes out of the cow and goes into the bulk tank, it goes into the bulk tank at about 98 degrees, and we need it at 36 degrees for storage purposes. The faster you get it down to 36 degrees, the higher quality milk you have. So the heat exchanger, the milk runs through it at 98 degrees, the groundwater is running through it in an opposite direction at about 45 to 50 degrees, and that takes the milk down to about 50 degrees. So now my coolers in the bulk tanks only have to take the milk from 50 down to 36 rather than 98 to 36, which results in, instead of the coolers on the bulk tanks running for 8 to 9 hours straight, they'll run for about 2 hours and then shut off. That's where you see a lot of the savings, just visually walking around here and noticing that stuff is not running. Another item we put in was a commercial washing machine, a washer extractor. It doesn't dry, it washes, spins the water out of the towels. They don't get completely dry, but they're dry enough because they also have chlorine in it. We put that in because it's a 40-pound unit, and we used to run 2 residentials, which are about 6 to 8-pound units. Those 2 washers, our 2 old washers, used to do 12 to 15 loads of laundry a day. With the new washer, it does 3 loads of laundry, using a lot less water than the 12 to 15 before, and doing a better job of washing it, and also doing a lot less loads. Overall, this has caused me a lot less headaches, a lot less breakdowns, lets me sleep at night. As far as savings goes across the board, we're probably not saving a whole lot of money, but it has allowed me to do other things that make the dairying easier. There's certain things that do save you a lot of money. The cooling thing is what's saving us the most money, the milk cooling through the plate cooler. But when you save energy in one area, it allows you to use a little bit in another area that's going to benefit the facility. Had I not had their backing, I would have never been able to do any of this. I would have never been able to afford it. A facility our size doesn't have the resources to lay out $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, $10,000 for a lot of these projects that I've done. So the assistance from the program is, I can't thank them enough for doing it, because I would have never been able to do it. I would have ended up, probably the facility would fall into disrepair and I would end up going out of business, because I wouldn't be able to keep up with what's going on out there and do it efficiently enough to stay in business.
My name is Brad Hart. We're a ranching family here in western Colorado near the town of Crawford. We run between 350 and 400 mother cows on mostly our own private ground. We have a small Forest Service permit and a small BLM permit. We irrigate about 1,200 acres here on the home place, most of which is used for hay. We use this area for both hay, and then we re-water it and grow fall pasture on it. The field was historically irrigated with flood irrigation, and the beavers really liked the section of the creek that the head gate was in. I'm pretty sure it is underwater right now, the old head gate. So we were looking for a way to solve that problem, and it was a very challenging field to irrigate because it was so flat. It's hard to get water to run from one side to the other. So we were looking to solve a couple of different problems when we started looking at a center pivot. And we take the water out higher up now, higher up the creek where we don't have the beaver problem. and then it's piped all the way here. That allows us to build the pressure to run the pivot. When we started researching putting a pivot in here, the power is about a little over a quarter mile away across a very deep gorge. And the cost, the initial staking estimate was about $30,000 just to bring power here to run a classic pivot, which is how most pivots you see are run, is they're run with electrical power. This method of powering the pivot is with the water pressure, and to make that work, you have to have extra pressure or extra water. And we have extra pressure here. We're running right at 125 pounds of pressure when we're running the pivot. It basically runs the water through a turbine, and it turns the turbine backwards, which then turns a hydraulic pump, and the hydraulic pump walks the pivot back and forth across the field. It was not free to install. The turbine and associated plumbing parts probably cost us about $17,000 to initially install versus $30,000 for electricity, but it's renewable. We don't have a power bill for this pivot. The yield has increased exponentially since putting it under a pivot, and we're still reseeding some of the ground under it, but I think we did 50 more round bales this year than we'd ever done before, and we had a tremendous run of fall pasture on it. And we're getting better grass types. It used to be a lot of swamp grass, and now we're seeing the alfalfa and clovers come back in because we're managing the water correctly. More we can cut costs on an agriculture operation, the better off we are. What we sell is kind of dictated by the market, but the inputs we put into it is what we control, and that determines whether it's profitable or break-evenable. We'll settle for break-even. It would have been, financially, this pivot would have been impossible for us to install without the assistance we received from various agencies. It's why this is here. That's why this is here, and we're hoping to do more.